Hi everybody, welcome back to 100% Marks. So I'm going to predict my Premier League predictions for the 1920 season, where I think the teams are going to finish at the end of the season. So to start off with, we're going to start off with the relegation teams. So I think the three teams to go down this season will be Brighton in at 18th, Norwich in at 19th, and Sheffield United in at 20th. And the reason behind that being, I think Brighton didn't really play that well last season. They just luckily survived in the Premier League, and I think this season's going to be catchy time and they're going to go down. Norwich, they played really well down in the Championship last season, absolutely dominating the Championship, but I just don't think they're going to have that mentality to come into the Premier League, and do the same sort of play as what they did last season. And that's one of the main reasons behind why they're going down in 19th. And then, of course, 20th place, Sheffield United, I'm going to say because they haven't really invested that well in the transfer window. They've got a guy in on a freebie, Phil Jagielka, guy pushing on to his late 30s. Probably has 1 or 2 seasons still in the tank as a defender, which isn't a bad signing to be honest, but I just don't think it's enough quality to keep them in the Premier League, and that's why I'm picking them for 20th. Moving on to the two guys to escape relegation, and I'm going to go Crystal Palace and Southampton. Now, the main reason behind Crystal Palace being in its 17th, I'm going to say that is because Wan-Bissaka went off to Man United for 50 million. Of course, they've got an aging manager in Roy Hodgson that's kind of losing touch with the modern day game, and has been losing touch with the modern day game for a while, proving that when he was England boss. And then, of course, you look at Southampton, who I'm going to put at 16th place, because, they haven't really invested again in the transfer window. They brought in Che Adams from Birmingham City. He had an absolute standout season for Birmingham last season, but I just don't think he's going to have that quality to push it into the Premier League level, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm picking them too, just to escape the relegation zone. Moving in the top 15 now, and in at number 15, I'm going to go Watford. I just don't think Watford's going to have as good a season as they did last season. They made it right the way to the final against Man City last season, only losing out because they ended up getting thoroughly thrashed. Sorry, any Watford fans for bringing that one up. But, I think that's going to put a big dampener down on their season this year. And I think they're going to be still thinking about what could have been if they could have won that game. And that's why I'm going to pick them at 15th. Moving on to 14th place, I'm going to go with Eddie Howe's team. And of course, the reason behind this is that they've lost Tyrone Mings. They've lost a couple of other great players at their club. They haven't really signed that many really great players, and they haven't really been that good in the transfer window. And I think they're just going to have enough to push for a 14th place finish. Moving on to 13th place, I'm going to go for Burnley, Sean Dyche's side. Pretty good side, he's got some good players there, but I just don't think they're going to have that quality to be able to push any higher up the table, and I'm going to see it 13th for Burnley. Moving on to 12th, and I'm going to go for West Ham. They've invested pretty well in the transfer window, don't get us wrong. They brought in Pablo Febres, I believe he's called, and Sebastian Haller. I think Sebastian Haller is probably going to be the standout player for West Ham this season. They've spent some good money on him, so watch the space where Sebastian Haller is. I think he's going to be their big goal scorer this season. But I think it's only going to be enough to push for a 12th place finish in the league. Moving on to 11th place, and I'm going to go for Aston Villa. The last of the newly promoted sides have spent very heavily in the transfer window. I don't think they're going to have the quality to push for a European place, but I think they're just going to have enough quality to push right the way into that 11th place, getting into the top, just below the top 10 finish, but to be honest, that's all I think they're going to be able to push for. Moving on to the top 10 now, and I think, to be honest, I'm going to go with Wolves, Newcastle, Everton and Leicester. Now, of course, Wolves in at 10th, because, they're in Europa League this season. They played pretty well last season, and that is why they're in the Europa League this season. But I think their focus is going to be on the Europa League. They're going to take their focus off the Premier League, and that's going to suffer and make them finish in 10th place. Moving on to my team, Newcastle United, I'm going to say 9th for Newcastle now. A couple of months ago, I would have been saying when the takeover was going on, Newcastle finish in a top 4 position, maybe even getting in the Europa League spots. And then after the takeover talks stopped going, I would have said Newcastle to be 17th place, maybe even relegation. But in the last few weeks, it's been a topsy-turvy thing at the moment with Newcastle. 1 minute it's been, oh, we're going to get a takeover. 1 minute it's been, oh, right, we're not getting a takeover. What we're going to do? Are we going to get relegated? Are we going to just survive? It's just one of them things with Newcastle at the moment under Mike Ashley, and it has been for the last 12 years under him. And it's never going to change until he finally goes. But I think with the players that we've signed in the transfer window, we've signed Joelinton for 40 million from Hoffenheim, breaking world record there. We've signed Saint-Maxim from Nice for 16.5 million, rising to 20 million, once again breaking the record there. We signed Almiron last season for 20 million, breaking the record at the club there. And then we've got some other standout players like Fabian Shaw. You've got Jethro Williams coming in on loan this season. You've got Martin Dubravka, you've got Matt Ritchie, John Joe Shelby, just to name a few of the players that on the books at Newcastle, and with all them players being mentioned, I think we've got enough in the tank to push for a 9th place finish. So I'm going to go for Newcastle in 9th place. Moving on to 8th, and I'm going to go for Everton. Of course, I think Everton's got enough in the tank to push for 8th place. I think they finished here last season. So I think it's going to be a similar season once again for Everton. I think they're going to finish 8th. Moving on to 7th, and I'm going to go for Leicester. Brendan Rodgers last season, of course, came in from Celtic, after having a really good career up there as their manager, winning quite a few cups for Celtic, and he came in as the Leicester manager. He got them right into 9th place, did pretty well. And he's signed some pretty good players this window. Jose Perez from my team, Newcastle, for 30 million. He's brought in Tillemans as well, who was on a loan. He's brought in some other great players. The only main factor behind why I'm picking them at 7th and not higher is because Harry Maguire joined Man United today for 80 million. Now, I think that's going to put a big dampener on Leicester a little bit, in the fact that he is a standout defender for them, and he probably was the leading defender as well at Leicester. Correct us if I'm wrong down in the comments below, any Leicester fans are watching. But I think he's going to have enough just to push for a 7th place finish. Moving on to 6th place, and I'm going to go for Man United. I think Man United's got enough to push for that 6th place finish. They've got Wan-Bissaka in there. They've got Harry Maguire in there. They've got Paul Pogba still. They've got Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial. They've got De Gea in goal. They've got really good players, Scott McTominay as well had a really good season last season. I think he's going to probably have a really good season this season. So I'm going to go for Man United in 6th place. Moving on to 5th place, I'm going to go for Chelsea. Now, obviously this is Frank Lampard's first season as the Chelsea manager after having a very successful time last year with Derby County down in the Championship. And of course that was his first season in management as well. He did really well with Derby County. He took them right the way into the finals against Aston Villa, only losing out Aston Villa by just pure unluckiness, unfortunately. But he's been given his chance at Chelsea this season. Unfortunately, Chelsea's got a transfer embargo on their buy-in, so they can't come in and buy anybody, but they've got some pretty decent players. They've got N'Golo Kante, they've got David Luiz, they've got Azpilicueta, they've got all these big name players in their team, so they don't need to really go out and buy anybody to begin with. They've lost Eden Hazard, unfortunately, at Real Madrid, so that's going to be a little bit of a dampener on them. But I think they're going to have enough in the tank to push for a 5th place finish. Moving on to 4th place, and I'm going to choose Arsenal here because, well, it's Arsenal. They always like to finish 4th. Enough said on that one, to be honest. Moving on to 3rd place, I'm going to choose Liverpool here. Now, most Liverpool fans probably won't agree with us, but they haven't really invested that well in the transfer market. They brought in Seb van den Berg from PEC, Zwolle in the Dutch league. They've brought in Harvey Elliott from Fulham, and he played at the last game of the season against Newcastle. He wasn't that good from what I can remember. He didn't really play that well. And I just think Liverpool's kind of dropped back a little bit from what they've done last season. They played really well. They got in the Champions League final. They won the Champions League against Tottenham. They almost won the Premier League if it wasn't for Man City getting that extra point on them. But, I just don't think Liverpool's going to have enough to push for that first place or second place finish this season. I think they're going to finish third. Moving on to second place, and I'm going to go with Tottenham in its second place. The reason behind this is that Tottenham played absolutely sensational last season. They've signed some pretty good players in this window already, and then Domini from Lyon for 65 million. They've already got some decent players in Harry Kane, Dele Alli, and Hugo Lloris, Christian Eriksen, just to name a few. And I think they're going to have enough to push for a second place finish, not a first place finish, but a second place finish, which brings us on to who I think will be the Premier League champions for the 1920 season, and it is Manchester City. Reason behind me thinking here is that once again Man City has proven that they can dominate football in England, dominate football in Europe. Last season they did absolutely sensational, winning quite a few cups, multiple cups last season for them. Pep Guardiola, he always loves to go out there, win cups with his teams. He did it at Barcelona, he did it at Bayern Munich, and he's doing it now at Man City, and he's got Man City playing like a fine-tuned machine. They've just been absolutely sensational in the transfer market as well, bringing in Rodri and Angelino from PSV Eindhoven, Rodri from Atletico Madrid, and I think he's going to be a really great player for Man City this season, Rodri, and that's one of the main reasons behind why I think they will win the Premier League title for the 1920 season and defend their Premier League title as well. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and as always remember to like, share, subscribe to 100% Bags, and also the winners of the 150 and 200 subscriber special giveaway video was James Sharkey of 100% NUFC and Ian Smith of Real Football UK. Now, I picked them out of a hat by random just in case anybody comments down in the comments below saying that the giveaway was fixed. It wasn't. I picked them out of a hat by random with their names on the little tickets, so it was fairly done. I didn't fix it in any way whatsoever. As always, remember to like, share, subscribe to 100% Mags, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye, the lads.